All aboard for your chance to win $1,000 every week until December 28th. That's right, $1,000 cash just in time for the holidays. To hop on board, just head to churchillmortgage.com and punch your ticket to the Churchill Express giveaway. Visit churchillmortgage.com for your chance to win big.
This is a paid advertisement. NMLS ID 1591. NMLSconsumeraccess.org. Equal housing lender. 1749 Mallory Lane, Suite 100, Brentwood, Tennessee 37027.
How's your money feeling? It's about to feel happier with a certificate from Happy Money's partner, Michigan State University Federal Credit Union. Elevate and increase your savings with 18-month terms and only a $500 minimum. And the happiest part? MSU FCU certificates yield 4.5% APY annual percentage yield. Now that's a happier side of money. Elevate your savings. Go to happymoney.com/MSUFCU. That's MSUFCU. Funds insured up to $250,000 by NCUA. The APY is accurate as of the 12/1/2023 dividend declaration date. Early withdrawal penalties do apply. Fees may reduce earnings on the account. Any monthly withdrawals or transfers reduce earnings.
Welcome to Uplift, inspiring stories to uplift the world. I am Gemma Serenity Gorokov, your host, and today we have speaker and coach Stacey Chillemi. Meet our remarkable speaker, coach, and 20-time best-selling author. With a track record like that, it's no wonder she was chosen as one of the top 10 entrepreneurs in 2023 at Apple News, showcased within a feature in Grit Daily. Additionally, this dynamic individual has made headlines, being featured in Insider, Business Insider, and Yahoo News, attracting a whopping 17 million views. You heard me, right? Notably, she has guest starred on the Dr. O's show 5 times, not 1, not 2, but 5. Had the privilege of working with celebrities like Ariana Huffington and appeared on various TV shows, the news, podcasts, and radio shows. Our inspiring professional began her career at NBC on Dateline, News 4, and The Morning Show, ultimately channeling her talents and capabilities towards speaking and writing full-time. With a passion for empowering men and women to surmount their challenges and reduce stress, this author and speaker invites people to discover their true potential. Are you ready to be motivated by Stacey Chillemi, insights and strategies to live life on your own terms? Join our esteemed speaker today and get inspired to take that first step toward lasting success. I love having you. Thank you for coming here today. It's an honor.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about who is Stacey Chillemi, because with such an amazing and impressive introduction, you must have experienced some really interesting things in your life. Tell us a little bit how all of that started.
Okay. Yeah, I get that question a lot. How did it all begin for you? How did the journey begin? What motivated you? And I usually, explain to people, I didn't plan everything to be the way it had happened. Actually, what I envisioned in my life actually was completely different. And it all started at the age of 5. My parents, I recently had a virus and an ear infection, and my mother heard a gurgling sound in the other room. And so she went to check on me, and she opened the door and she saw me turning blue, and I was in a grand mal seizure. So she called the ambulance. They rushed me to the hospital, and they found that the virus had traveled to my brain and turned it to encephalitis. And I was induced into a 4-day coma. And they told my parents, most likely if she comes out, she'll be paraplegic or she'll have severe brain damage. So my father, who comes from Greece, he comes from a little island in Greece. There was one church on the island, and there was a statue that used to have teardrops. And he said he kept praying to this statue and kept envisioning it in his head. And then on the 4th day, when he looked up, he said he saw a teardrop roll from my eyes. And I had come out of the coma, and I looked at him and I asked him for McDonald's French fries. And I wasn't paraplegic. I didn't have brain damage, but I did end up with epilepsy. And that was a struggle. That was like a roller coaster ride growing up and into my adulthood years. And when I got to college, even in college, the late night study and the stress of getting good grades, my seizure has actually increased. And I wasn't sure if I was even going to be able to finish college. And that was something on my bucket list that I really wanted to do. So not knowing what to do, I went to the library. There was very few books on epilepsy. They were written by doctors in medical terminology. So you had no clue what they were talking about unless you were in the medical field. That really annoyed me. And so I wrote a letter to the Epilepsy Foundation, an organization in the United States that represents people with epilepsy. And they had a magazine. I said, well, could you please publish this article for me? And I said in the article, how do people with epilepsy cope with their disorder? How do they get through life? 300 to 400 letters from all over the United States and Canada came to my house. And I read these letters. They were very inspirational. They were very motivational. And they actually gave me the momentum. For the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't alone. And I actually, from all the input I got, I was able to create a regimen for myself. And I actually got through college. I ended up graduating. I got a big corporate job in the city, and I was working in the city. I was living the life. And then one day I felt a seizure coming on. And I looked around. I was trying to find a place where I could hide, where no one will see me. But there was no place to go. And I fell to the ground. I was awake and I went into a seizure. But I was conscious, and an executive saw me and stepped over me and kept walking. And I saw him do that and I couldn't believe it. And, 30 minutes later, another executive, an associate of his, came over and said, Stacey, you're doing a great job, but, you don't meet the qualifications, that we're looking for at this moment, so I'm going to have to let you go. I knew it was because I had the seizure and they just didn't want to have anything to do with me. So I left there and I said, you know what? I'm not going to let this get me down. I said, one day I am going to be a success. One day I will get out there and I will get my name seen and heard. So I walked out of there with my head up high and I started to do freelance writing, and I created my own business. And I started working with actually a lot of companies now that are multi-million-dollar companies. Back then, they were just launching, and they would come to me and they would ask me to write different pieces and presentations and speeches for them. And I was doing that. And then one day I met an herbalist, and he said, I need a lot of research done. Will you do this research for me? So I started to research and write about natural healing, holistic living, supplements, vitamins. And I said, wow, a lot of these things could apply to my own life. And I started implementing a lot of the things I was learning into my own life. Those seizures went from 12 to 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2 to none. So with the combination of the medication I was taking and holistic living, changing my lifestyle, changing the way I lived, adding, supplements, detoxing my body, the whole works, I was able to actually be able to be controlled. And so I realized that, if I helped myself through holistic living, I could help lots of people. So I created, at that time, they had a little blogger, it was from Google made it. And I started writing about this. And right away, 400 people came on. I was like, wow, a lot of people are interested in this. So then I met a web designer and he created websites, and he saw the little blog I had. He said, I could really make this into a pretty website for you. And he created a website. And before I knew it, hundreds of thousands of people started coming on. First, it was 10,000. Then it grew and grew and grew and grew. And then I started writing books. And the first book I wrote was Epilepsy, You're Not Alone. I wanted to help others with epilepsy, just like I was able to, because people out of the woodwork came out to help me. I wanted to help other people in return. So I took all those letters, I put it together. I wrote about the regimen that I created for myself, and I put it into one book, and I called it Epilepsy, You're Not Alone. And that book became a bestseller. And I wrote a book I called it The Complete Herbal Guide. That book became a bestseller. That was like an encyclopedia of holistic living. So it explained what supplements were, what they could do, what conditions they helped, and and precautions to take, and the whole works. So, and I kept going and going and going and going and going. And then I started to do speaking events. I started to mentor people. I started to help people. And I started to coach people. And before I knew it, the lifestyle that I had planned for myself did a complete U-turn. And what I planned I was going to do with my life ended up, I went more on an advocate journey to help others. And that's where I am today. I just recently, during COVID, I rewrote that book, Epilepsy, You're Not Alone, because that book was written over 20 years ago. So there was a lot of updating to do. So I said, I'm going to update this book, and I updated it. It's a bestseller right now in the bookstores. And I created a book called Empower Yourself, Don't Let Your Conditions Empower You. And that book is basically to teach people, no matter what you're going through life, even stress, don't let your conditions overcome you. We could get through it. We all have a potential in life. There's a reason we're all here. And don't let the obstacles in your life overcome it. Let's rise above the chaos. Let's overcome these obstacles. Let's be courageous and gain the strength to move forward and reach our true potential, because everybody has a story. Everybody has great potential, and everybody's voice needs to be heard.
That is a fascinating story. Thank you for sharing. I knew something good would come out of it. I knew that, but that good and that inspiring, wow. You are really one of these amazing guests that we are dreaming of for Uplift, because we really look for those special person who can actually completely put faith over matter and change the outcome. And even at 5 years old, your higher self, your spirit, the idea of yourself took on, instead of whatever they were saying, like, be careful. No, don't. Just believe it works, and it does.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Wow. Okay. So herbology, and it's not the first time I hear that, herbology actually was a catalyst for starting your healing from, in that case, epilepsy, and as we know, from many other health conditions that we may have.
Yeah.
That's amazing. When you went on Dr. Oz 5 times, was it to talk about epilepsy and herbology, or was it for something else?
It was for something else. He was focusing more on different natural ways to improve different parts of your body and to improve your home. Like one time he had me coming on, he wanted to talk about skincare. So, we talked about skincare. And then another time he came on, he wanted to talk about the toxins in our cleaning products and, different ways to, healthier ways to approach cleaning your home, and not having to inhale the toxins and the impurities. So it was different things that came on, but everything was always related to something holistic or something natural, in the area that I would kind of focused on.
Okay. And I have a question for you, and that comes from, I imagine the audience, and I imagine that not everybody knows about epilepsy, what it is, what's going on in the brain, how can they recognize it? Are you able to explain a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, epilepsy, it's kind of amazing because, I think we have like 2.3 million in the United States with epilepsy. 70% of the cases are unknown. They just come about. A lot of times people get it from brain injury. Sometimes it could be genetic. And a lot of times they don't know why people all of a sudden start having seizures. But think of it, I try to think, the best way I could explain it to somebody is our brain waves kind of go in a flow. And if you think of a thunderstorm or lightning, you think of that lightning coming down and it disrupts the rain starts falling and the lightning starts coming down and the weather is disrupted for a short period of time. Then the weather kind of blows over and you get back the nice weather and the calmness. Well, for those few seconds, for those few moments, you go into a seizure. Something triggers a seizure in your body. It could be stress. It could be too much sodium in your body. It could be water retention. It could be that you're sick and your body's stressed and it's working hard and it's just putting too much pressure, and it's affecting the brain, because everything we do affects the brain. So we have to be really careful how we treat our bodies, and people don't realize that, but our body is a sanctuary. So anything you do, anything you put in your mouth, anything that, how you handle stress, it all affects the brain and affects the body. And these could be trigger points for seizures. And so, you have to really care for your body. And there's many different types of seizures. It's not just one seizure. So some people have a focal seizure where it's a stop and stare. I could be talking to you in a conversation, and then you could start talking, and I'll just be glaring at you. And my eyes might get a little glassy, and I might just like stare at you for a few seconds, then just come out of it. And you might not even know that I had a seizure, or you might say, this chick's a little weird. Why is she staring at me like that? And I'm in a seizure, and then you have some people who fall to the ground. You have some people who are conscious, some people who are unconscious, some people, their whole body starts to go into a seizure, and their arms will swing, and, their legs will swing. It all depends on what part of the brain is having the seizure. So if it's a frontal lobe, you're going to have certain body movements. If it's a left, temporal lobe, you're going to have certain seizures. It all depends where the seizure is occurring in the body. But people in our United States, we have such a large amount of people that have epilepsy, and a lot of people experience a seizure, but we don't have a lot of education out there and explaining what a seizure is and what to do if somebody has a seizure. And people don't want to be ostracized. They don't want to have a label on them. They don't want to be stigmatized. And in our world, we have a tendency of labeling people, which is not a good thing. And, a seizure is just like having diabetes, having any other condition, and should be treated like any other thing. It's just cared for differently. Anytime anybody has different conditions, we care for it differently. But it's a disruption in the brain, and it causes the body and the brain to react. So, but you have to make sure the person's in a safe place, or if they fall, you have to just make sure they're in an area where they're not going to hurt themselves.
Yeah, that's very important. Thank you for clarifying all of that. It's very important for people to know, especially to know what to do. So to protect the area, to put a protection around, because it's just going to pass. This is not something that stays. It's just like it's a few seconds, sometimes maybe a few minutes, I would think. And it passes. It's not constant.
There are some cases where some people will have a long-term seizure where it's not stopping, and that's when you have to get, emergency help. And they do make pens now. The pharmaceutical companies have come out with certain types of pens to help the seizure stop. If someone's had, those are kind of rare situations, but they are some people who have experienced longer term seizures, which are unhealthy and could cause damage to the brain. So you want to get those seizures under control. And the pharmaceutical companies have figured a way to actually stop the seizure if it is a long-term seizure.
So there are options, there are solutions. So
yes.
Being aware that there are solutions. And how does, so basically, if anybody at any moment in time just goes blank and then comes back, that's a mini seizure?
Well, you can't, it all depends on, if the person has epilepsy, that would probably be a focal seizure. But, if someone stops and stares, there's so many conditions out there. You can't say, oh, that person must be having a focal seizure. But, a focal seizure, that could be a focal seizure. You would have to ask the person, do you have epilepsy? And if it keeps reoccurring and they say no, and it keeps reoccurring, then I would suggest going to a epileptologist, getting tests done, because those are the doctors that will be able to give you significant tests to determine if you have epilepsy. Because, it's not us who decide that we have epilepsy. Those doctors have to have specific tests done in order to decipher if that person actually does have epilepsy, or if they have a condition that's causing seizures to occur.
Okay, so that's important to know. Seizure does not equals epilepsy, and epilepsy contains seizure.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's also important to discover. Thank you for teaching us, educating us. It's very important. I like that. Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we said that your job now, your chosen, so your lifestyle, it's not a job, we know that. Your lifestyle, your business now, it's all about speaking and writing. Is that really what you love to do, or did you really go with coaching as well?
I got to a point in my life where I've always done speaking events and I've always coached, but I got to a point where I felt I was kind of done with the writing and I really wanted to take the next step and do speaking and coaching full time. So I am at the point right now where I am focusing a lot on speaking because I get the most enjoyment when I'm in front of people and I'm able to teach people and motivate people and help people through tough times when they're going through obstacles, if they feel stuck in life, if they're not reaching their potential and they're not sure how to get to that potential. I have my most fulfillment when I'm able to teach those people and make it very simple for them and show them step by step how to do it and give people the inspiration and the hope and the motivation and let people know that they are somebody and they can do it and not to give up. And so, when I speak, a lot of times the room will become silent. People will engage. And, afterwards, people will hug me or, give me a handshake and thank me for, sharing with them what I've shared with them. And I like to coach too, one-on-one, because, I love to help people and see them grow so they could actually reach the goals and the potentials in life, and become that true potential, that person they want to always become, but never knew how to get there.
That sounds like a plan. Thank you so much for speaking truth and for bringing so much value. And indeed, when you can look at someone and share your value and see that person implement your suggestions, and you see the results that are transformational, it's like, that's so rewarding. That's so much more rewarding than just money alone. It's like, okay, we are making an impact in people's lives. That is the most rewarding thing.
I'll tell you a story. One thing that came to my head when you just said that. When I wrote my book, Epilepsy, You're Not Alone, I got an email and a person had emailed me and they said, I was on the verge of suicide, but I found your book in Barnes and Nobles and I applied your regimen to my life and you saved my life. And I just want to say thank you. And that was really when the light bulb went off. That was when I realized what my true purpose in life was. I realized the words of wisdom, how powerful they can be as a podcaster, as a speaker, as a coach, even as a writer. What those words that we put together, those words of encouragement, those plans, those strategies, helping people get to the next stage in their life. It could help someone in ways that are so powerful that it's just, it's amazing. It's, you don't realize everything that comes out of our mouth or goes on a piece of paper has such an impact on another person's life.
That is true. That is absolutely true. Amazing. So, Stacey, how do people reach out to you?
So you can find me. I have my one website called StaceyChillemi.com. That's StaceyChillemi.com. And on there, I have a area where they can go and they can find out everything about my speaking, or they can find out about my coaching. I have my books on there. I have my podcast, because I do a podcast called The Advisor with Stacey Chillemi, and people can come on the show and we do self-improvement. We talk about relationships, mental health, you name it. We talk about even business. People struggle in business. They get so frustrated in our economy the way it is. And, we have people who come on and talk about various things to help people. And, the list goes on. We cover a lot of things that people have to, really help people grow.
That's fantastic. I was looking at your website simultaneously, and it's indeed absolutely well done and really like holistic. You take it from all perspectives to make sure to connect with all the kind of different intelligence of the people, to really reach out their hearts, so that those who has to be attracted to you, they can, and they can also recognize with their own ability to either listen, watch, learn, read, or whatever else. Amazing.
Right.
Great. Thank you so much, Stacey. You really made my day. I really appreciate you. Truly a true blessing.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. Thank you so much, Gemma.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.